Hello, my name is Mary Jo Faustgen. Today I'll be talking with you about a very interesting subject, the power of mind over mood, and how very important the mind is in our behavior and our feelings. And so we're going to be exploring a lot of different things to do with that. I'm going to bring you important findings from experts in the field of cognitive behavioral therapy. These experts are Dr. Albert Ellis, Aaron Beck, David Burns, and Dr. Alfred Adler. I was trained in the Alfred Adler Institute here at graduate school here, and it's a very powerful psychology. I've also taken courses in positive psychology, and so I'm going to be bringing lots of different things together here for you today. I hope it's very helpful for you. So let's get started. And as we look at things together today, we're going to be talking about some disorders of mood, not all of them, because it's not possible to cover them all. But we'll cover some main ones in depression, anxiety, anger. We will not be talking about bipolar or personality disorders. We will explore what's called mistaken beliefs in each one of these, explore cognitive distortions. So these cognitive distortions are things also that they're a little bit different than the mistaken beliefs. We're going to be talking about changing your mood and changing your behavior, and then I'll give you a troubleshooting guide at the end. So first off, talking about depressive disorders. There's many different ones, starting with dysthymia, which is like a low-grade chronic depression. And it's kind of like being in an Eeyore syndrome. That's kind of what I call it. Over a long period of time, like at least 2 years, you're just not feeling good about life, not feeling good about yourself. That low-grade depressive feeling. Then there's major depressive disorder, and it can be either mild, moderate, or severe based on the assessment that you're given. Which is the PHQ-9. You've probably taken that at your doctor's office. May have had a screening for it, but the actual PHQ-9 is a 9-question assessment, and depending on how you come out in that would be how you are diagnosed with major depressive disorder. And so we also find that in major depressive disorder, you often get people who think about, they have thoughts of being better off dead or hurting themselves. And so we want to prevent, especially a severe major depressive disorder, we want to prevent suicide before people get to that point, such as the recent occurrence of the suicide of Miss America from 2019. You probably heard about that in the news. And how tragic that really is. We want to prevent that. And then there's anxiety disorders. And there's so many of them. And depending on how you come out on a different assessment, which is called the GAD-7, is where you might be diagnosed with either generalized anxiety or another type of stressor-related anxiety disorder. So with GAD, you tend to worry about a lot of things all the time, and you have a hard time stopping that. With social anxiety, you're afraid to be in public, you're afraid to be with strangers, you're afraid to be with even crowds of people, and you tend to be avoidant. And then there's trauma, and there's many different types of trauma. There can be very minor ones, but there can also be major ones that can cause PTSD. And if you have a major one, or if somebody you know has had a major trauma, such as they've been in a fire, or they've been in a huge car accident, or they witnessed something very traumatic to them, they can get full-blown PTSD, which can be, you get hyperarousal, and you become hypervigilant, become avoidant. You have a hard time trusting people. And it's a very fearful disorder, as many of the anxiety disorders are, but PTSD especially, you're just full of fear, and you're just very much in that fear-based anxiety. And then there's other things, adjustment. There's lots of different adjustment disorders that can have anxiety as well, and depression. But maybe you're adjusting to, say, a divorce. Maybe you're adjusting to a death in the family. And these can have anxiety in them as well. And then there's phobias. Many people have different types of phobias, whether it be something that they're afraid of eating, or afraid of bugs, or lots of different things that can come in there. And it's different than OCD. And I don't know if you saw the old movie, What About Bob? But he, in there, what's his name? Forgot his name. He has multiphobic personality disorder is how it's called. So it's Bill Murray. I had to look at my notes for that one. But it's a really funny film, and it helps us laugh a little bit at ourselves and how difficult it can get for us to just go through life. And then there's anger disorders. And so there's several different ones: disruptive impulse control and conduct disorders. And there's also intermittent explosive disorder, which is a very serious one, which means that you have a pattern of aggressive behavior, either physical or verbal, to someone else. And it's a pattern over a number of months. So it's not just once, it's a pattern. And so we want to break that pattern. So what we're looking at is disorders in adults. There's many different ones also in adolescents and children that we're not going to go through. So we're going to be talking about mistaken beliefs. What are they? They're beliefs that tend to get us into trouble in life, in relationships, and it depends on how tightly you hold on to these. And maybe they just kind of run your life. They cause arguments, they cause misunderstandings, they cause these things that we call mood disorders. And maybe underneath you have this anxiety and or depression, but it may come out as anger. Have you ever experienced that? Sometimes you don't express to somebody that you are anxious or that you're depressed, but it comes out in your frustration, it comes out in your attitude. And so those are things that we're going to be working on. So one at a time, what are the mistaken beliefs that we can kind of pull out in depression? Well, oftentimes it's, I'm a victim, I'm a martyr. And martyrs are victims with an ego, okay? And so, you know, you kind of get into this not only just feeling sorry for yourself, but you feel like you're suffering more than everybody else. I'm inadequate. You feel entitled. How does entitlement fit into depression? Well, if you feel entitled, say, to a raise, and you're not getting a raise, you can get depressed. And so maybe that mistaken belief that you have is, I'm entitled to that raise. What's the matter with them? They can't see how good I am. And you get down on yourself, you get down on your job, you get depressed. Caregivers can often get depressed. And sometimes it's because they're giving so much and giving so much time and energy, and maybe they're not getting much back. Maybe they're not getting appreciated for what they're giving, so they can get down. And oftentimes people in depression feel like they can't trust anybody. I can't trust anybody anymore. Nobody's doing what I want them to do. That gets you frustrated, it gets you depressed, or it can, okay? And then there's all kinds of needs that maybe you're not being met in depression, that need to fix, that need to be needed. Let's talk about the need to fix, first of all. I see a lot of couples who, one of them may have that need to fix the other person. And I can't fix you because you don't want to be fixed. And that causes me a lot of frustration. And I get down about it. Okay. And then that caregiver that we were just talking about, they have that need to be needed. And if they don't feel like they're needed anymore, maybe the person that they were helping, all of a sudden, they're not there anymore. Maybe they die. And there's nobody that needs you anymore. And there's this empty void in your life, and you get down. And there's this need to be strong. Many of us have that need to look like we're all put together. However, something happens and we feel like we haven't got it all together and causes us depression. That need to achieve, whether it be in school or in job or at home, and all of a sudden you can't achieve and you feel terrible about yourself. Okay, you feel depressed. Or maybe you want to avoid conflict and that person just keeps being in your face and you can't seem to avoid conflict. They won't leave you alone. And you get down about it. You get frustrated and get down because you don't want conflict. Or that need for comfort. And all of us feel that, especially in Minnesota and the Midwest when it's so cold right now. We want to just bundle up in our blanket and we just want to, rest. But the kids are running around and your husband isn't understanding you and you can't get any comfort, you can't get any sleep, and you feel down. Okay. Or that need to know. So this is hitting a lot of us as we had so much opportunity to know more on the internet. So we need to know more and more and more, and we can't know the exact answer for something, and we get down. What is your mistaken belief in depression if you have it? You need to find it. You need to find what that is so that you can counteract it. Let's look at some mistaken beliefs in anxiety. Well, some people have that need for perfection. I need to have things perfect around the house. I need to be perfect at work. I can't let them see my imperfections. Or I need to be responsible. I need to get this all put together. I need to do this right. I need to fix. I need to rescue. Have you ever had that need to, if you have a relationship with somebody and they keep getting in trouble, maybe it's your kids and they keep messing up at school, they keep messing up at home, and you're trying to be defensive of them with, say, your spouse and trying to minimize what's going on with them. You get all anxious about it and you got to keep working on rescuing them because you have this need to make sure that they are rescued. Or that need to be needed. For some of us, it feels good to be needed. And we feel anxious if we aren't needed, or if we keep being needed and we're just overwhelmed with it, that causes anxiety too. Or that need to achieve and keep putting the bar higher and higher and higher. Or if you want to avoid that conflict and it keeps being in front of you and you get anxious about it and you can't stop it, get anxious. You need to know. So some of these can be in depression. Some of these can be in anxiety. Maybe you've got both anxiety and depression. Or maybe you really want to be in control of your life, in control of the situation, and you keep pushing yourself harder and harder and harder. What is your mistaken belief in anxiety? You need to find it so you can counteract it. And then there's mistaken beliefs in anger. One of my favorite subjects, as I did many years of anger management groups. And so what I found over 20 years of these groups is that the need to be right, the need to control, and the need to win, and being superioristic are just right in front of people who have anger management problems. And I know because I had my own. And so as I face myself with that need to be right. I didn't want to be wrong. I couldn't be wrong because that meant I would lose face. I needed to control you because you need to be controlled. You're out of control. But I didn't realize I was out of control. And I needed to win. I needed to be first. These are also the people that have to be last in the conversation. They have to talk and talk and talk, and then they have to say the last word because they have to get that point across. Okay. Or do you have a rebellious spirit? Like when my husband tells me, you have to do this, right inside of me, I go, I don't have to do that. So there's this beany thing of rebelliousness in me that I have to work on, because otherwise that causes me lots of anger and frustration. And have you ever said out on the road, people are just so stupid, and that causes you to be angry, and it might, get you into some conflict on the road. It might get you conflict with a person at work. It might get you conflict at home. Yes, people aren't always very smart, but this is a mistaken belief that can get you into trouble. And yes, people should help each other, but if they don't help each other, say at home, when you feel like you're doing everything around the house and nobody's helping you, the kids aren't helping you, and your spouse isn't helping you, and what's the matter with everybody else, and they should be helping me. Anger, frustration. Okay, life should be fair. Well, of course it should be fair, but it often is not fair. So we get into this little snit of things aren't fair and I don't like it. Okay, what is your mistaken belief in anger? You need to find it. You need to counteract it. And then there's all these wonderful cognitive distortions that Dr. Aaron Beck has found, and Dr. David Burns has kind of worked through in his book that I'll give you that as a resource at the end here. So all or nothing thinking, black and white thinking, oftentimes we get into that. Overgeneralizing, disqualifying something positive, because we concentrate so much on the negative and we forget about the fact that something positive also happened. You can jump to conclusions either about what somebody just said or something about the future. We can magnify things, either catastrophizing or minimizing. What's the matter with minimizing? Well, maybe you minimize, I've seen it a lot in people who are going to be married and they don't recognize totally what the person is about that they are going to marry, and they minimize their imperfections when they don't really see it as it really is. So that's not helpful either. And then there's emotional reasoning. Okay? Well, if you assume that negative feelings are reality, like I'm assuming that because I'm fearful of something happening on the plane that I'm going to get onto, that something's going to happen. It may not happen. You don't have to assume that it's going to happen. And then a lot of us should on ourselves, and then we feel guilty. You don't need to do that. And then there's labeling people like, you're such a jerk, you're such a moron, you're so stupid. That's not helpful. Okay. And then if we personalize things, such as we tend to perceive, that we did something wrong when maybe we didn't. So we take personally when somebody doesn't call us back or doesn't email us back right away. Don't have to take it personally. And so in cognitive behavioral therapy, this is what we do. We try to look at working on what's going on in the brain, the different parts of the brain. We try to help you see what's going on in the emotional part of the brain, the limbic system, which is all about emotions. And we try to help you think forward in the prefrontal cortex, which is where rational thinking happens. That's where you can change your mood. That's where you can change your cognitions. That's where you can change your behavior even. And I'm going to show you how you do that. So working on depression. So instead of feeling like a failure, which is feeling inadequate, what you can do is tell yourself, well, I do some things well, but just not everything. Everything bad always happens to me, so you get into the victim thing. But some good things happen to me too. I suffer more than you do. But I need to stop putting you down. I need to get an A, but I got a C. So I have that need to achieve. At least I passed with a C is what you can tell yourself. This is how you can do it. You can work on coping thoughts. So I tell people, I want you to make a list of your depressing thoughts, the thoughts that cause you depression, the depression causing thoughts. I want you to make a list of coping thoughts, the counteractive coping thoughts that can help you focus on something different. Okay, let's keep going. I can't stand this job one more day. Are you catastrophizing? Yes. I can work one more day on coping with it until I can get my pension. Eventually, as I keep going day by day, I can retire eventually. And that's what I'm going to keep going for. I should have been a better friend. So you're doing the shoulds on yourself. I can learn how to be a better friend. I can learn how to. I'm so tired I can't get anything done. If I just take my time, I can get a few things done, but it will take a little longer. I can give myself some time and patience. And how can I work on any of those anxiety or trauma related things? Stress producing thoughts and stress coping thoughts. I'm so afraid I'm going to lose my job. Well, I do have a job. I can be thankful for that. I have to have everything cleaned so perfectly. No, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm so overwhelmed with everything. And I hear this so much from people with anxiety. I'm going to take one day at a time, one thing at a time. That's been such helpful advice for people. I can't breathe. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. But I don't have any evidence to prove that. Just because I'm not able to breathe very well doesn't mean I'm having a heart attack. Maybe I just need to breathe and calm down. I don't need to go to the ER until I try to calm myself down. What if we all get COVID? What if we lose our home because we can't afford it? What if? These are things that cause anxiety, the what ifs. It gives us this anxiety loop that I call. And it's where you get into this hamster wheel thinking. It goes around and around and around. But if you catch yourself and tell yourself, I just need to calm down. I'm okay. I can calm down, relax, slow down, relax. I can work it out. Okay. So you concentrate on the coping thoughts. How can you work on your anger? Well, instead of saying, you make me so mad, no, I make myself mad. I'm the cause of my anger. I can calm myself down. Once I get angry, I can't stop. Oh, but you can. You can learn to stop yourself. It takes work. It takes energy, but you can do it. I've always been like this. I can't change. Oh, yes, you can. You can learn to change if you really want to change. Okay, it takes wanting to. It takes a lot of motivation. If you would just change, I'd be okay. Well, I can't make anybody else change, but I can change myself. You can be so stupid, yes, but I need to be more understanding and kind in how I deal with you. And then you might say, how can I be calm and nothing changes? Well, I can change my attitude. And so in this cognitive behavioral therapy, we work on changing our behavior. How is this changing our behavior? Because we talked about changing our thoughts. Let's kind of reverse order here and talk about things that we've already talked about and look at behavior instead. And anger, how can this change your behavior as you change your thoughts? into coping thoughts. You're concentrating on your coping thoughts. Look at as you look down that list of coping thoughts, I can calm down. You're talking about calming yourself down. You're talking about your attitude change. You're becoming, hopefully, more understanding, more kind, more patient. You're changing your attitude. Does that change your behavior? Yes, it can, if you really want to. So you take a breath before you respond to somebody, and you say, thank you for that comment. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you. Thank you for the insight. I will try to do it differently next time. Find things that you can say differently. Find how you can respond differently. And then in your anxiety, how can this change your behavior? Well, you're calming down. Look at that. You're being more thankful. Start a gratitude list instead of concentrating on everything you're anxious about. You don't have to go into perfection. You don't have to assume that everything has to be perfect. Maybe you'll even sleep better. Maybe you'll even simplify how you're doing your tasks in life, because if you're feeling so overwhelmed because everything you're taking on yourself and you're so responsible, maybe you don't need to. Maybe you'll find that your concentration and your memory is better, because as your anxiety is calmed down and you calm down, you're getting out of your limbic system, you're getting out of that primitive part of your brain, and you're working on actually thinking more rationally, thinking slower, and you can concentrate more, and you can oftentimes have a better memory. It's very interesting how that works. And then how does this work in depression? Well, as you're easier on yourself, maybe you're being easier on other people. Maybe you might even smile more because you're a little bit lighter inside. And as you smile more, you're actually getting more endorphins into your nervous system, and you're feeling better. Okay? You're finding ways to accept. You're finding ways to look forward maybe to the future instead of thinking it's all doom and gloom. Maybe your self-esteem is going up because you're feeling better about life. Maybe you're coming out of your shell. Maybe you're taking time to do things a little bit longer, and that's okay. You're having patience with yourself. And maybe you're actually having some more energy. You're pushing yourself to actually exercise more, and that's going to help you too. And so we're working in cognitive behavioral therapy to work on not only getting out of your emotional self, but working with your emotions and with your rational self in what we call wise mind. And in DBT, they talk about using your emotions to help you recognize what you need to do to make better decisions for yourself. So in CBT, we're talking also about that. So you can work it through in dialectical behavioral therapy as well as cognitive behavioral therapy. And here's our troubleshooting guide. Okay. If you're finding that you're doing these things, but you're still not having enough change in your mood, change in your behavior, let's look at these things. Were you specific enough in your thoughts that cause you these mood problems? Do you have enough coping thoughts for each of your problematic thoughts? Because really, you can find lots and lots of different coping thoughts for each of your problematic thoughts. And the more you find and the more you concentrate on them, you're going to find that you're going to be able to do it better. You're going to feel better, and your behavior is going to follow. Did you focus on them? Did you talk to yourself frequently enough through the day when you're having that problem to be able to change your mood? So the frequency of telling yourself is important. Do you have enough evidence to support your coping thoughts? Did you look for that evidence? Yes, I did. I don't have to be stuck in those stress-producing thoughts. those depression-causing thoughts, those anger-producing thoughts? Do you have enough motivation to get out of it, to change? You have to have enough motivation to actually create a change, because otherwise it's just easier to keep doing what you're doing. Did you work on changing it? Did you work on it? Did you expend energy on it? Did you work on it? And these are the resources that I talk about. And there's a Calm app that you can put on your phone that is very helpful for people who have anxiety issues. There's a workbook called Mind Over Mood. It's wonderful. And there's also one by David Burns called Feeling Good. Feeling Good. And I hope that that helps you to realize that these are things that can help you as you work through life. So we've talked about a lot of things. Please work on your mood disorders. And especially if you're taking medication for it, these are things you can do in addition to the medication. And doctors have always said that therapy and doing your own therapy in this way can help you in addition to the medications. So we've talked about a lot of things. I hope it has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And it's been a pleasure to be of service to you in this way. Thank you so much. See you on the next webinar.